Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. I have my Adventure is Calling mug today and my bookish box, A Reader Lives a Thousand Lives sweatshirt. Cozy vibes all around. Alright, I am once again doing a book haul simply to get this out of my way so that I can put it on my shelves. We just got a smaller, like a more narrow shelf to go in between the two bookshelves over there, in the hopes that that will be able to utilize the space that we have to fit as many books as possible, because we don't have room for another set of these, even though I love them. We just have an old house and it's just not really set up for that. So I'm hoping we bought one for now to put over there, and then maybe we'll get another one for back here to put in between these and move them apart a little bit. But anyway, I'm saying all of that because I need to take these books that I need to haul and put them on the shelf so that they have somewhere to live. So this is normally not a time I would be doing a book haul, but we're going to be doing it because I need to organize them. And I'm also going to go ahead, I have my iPad here and I've been keeping a list of audiobooks to haul that I keep forgetting to share with you guys, so we're going to do that today as well. Well, with that, let's just go because we do have a few books to get through. I'll just start off with what's in reach. So first off, we have the Fake Rate edition of the Demon Queen Trials by C.N. Crawford. This is the City of Thorns, Lord of Embers, Garden of Serpents book that you've seen. You've obviously seen it in a different cover. I went ahead and got the Fake Rate editions because I thought they'd be really pretty. I'm not going to say that they're not pretty, I just don't know what I was expecting. But first up, we have City of Thorns. It's got like shimmery, like glittery black sprayed edges, but it's got like a maroon flip. It's kind of cool. Lord of Embers and Garden of Serpents. I'm not sure how I feel about these covers. I think the artwork is beautiful, but I don't really love people on the covers, and I think that's why I'm kind of hesitant about them. But that being said, they are signed, which is great, and the naked hardcovers are actually really pretty. This is like the front of the first one, and the back always has a quote on it. This one and this one. So I think the naked hardcovers are really pretty, and I'm not like super mad about it. I'm not like over the moon about them. I really like the original covers, but they're also really pretty. I also like the deep, like bronzy, chocolatey foiling. I think that's really pretty. I don't know, what do you think about these? And you're following a main character who, I think on her 21st birthday, she ends up going out for drinks and ends up being kidnapped by a demon king because they think that she is a succubus and she's like a doppelganger for this succubus or something. And he finds out that she's not in fact who he's looking for, because he was going to take revenge on her, and her father was also killed under mysterious circumstances, and so they end up teaming up to find her father's killer and find this creature that wronged him, and I think they have to like fake date along the way. Not really sure. I've been interested in reading it for quite some time and still haven't, but when I saw that Fake Crate was doing some editions, I thought I would grab them in case I love them. Next up, this series recently got a rebrand and got a whole different, well, maybe not a rebrand, but they all got a new set of covers, and I picked up this book because I don't really have any of the other books. And this is probably the last one I'm gonna read, because if I don't like this one, I'm not gonna continue. I think I told somebody I was gonna finish the series regardless, but I did go ahead and grab Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 4 in the Throne of Glass series, I guess. There's Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and then Queen of Shadows is the 4th one. Assassin's Blade is a prequel before all of those, so like, however you want to say it, this is the 4th novel, I guess. I love the cover. I think the cover is amazing. And I went ahead and got this just because I'm going to read this. But like I said, this may be the last chance that I give this series, but I've heard that people, if it didn't turn around with Heir of Fire for you, that it will turn around with this book. So here's hoping. I do think the cover's stunning. It is insanely floppy, like gorgeous flop. I adore that about this. I think the cover is just my favorite out of the new covers as well. And maybe I will like this. I'm sure it'll have more Manor and Raxos, so hopefully I like this. If you don't know about Throne of Glass, where have you been? I'm gonna go through these pretty quickly too because I don't want to be here all day, so hopefully I will like this. Please let me know if you thought it turned around at this book or not. But after this book, I'll let you know my thoughts and we'll see where I end up. The next book I bought that I have hauled in the past, but I just grabbed a paperback version, and I saw a special edition of this book on sale for $5 and I was pumped. And that is We Could Be Villains by Megan McLeod. This is like a superhero book. It's essentially, I think the way she pitched it is it's like the main character, the main heroine is like a huge Marvel fan. Like that's kind of the theme, it's painting. It's like this huge movie industry where it's all of these superhero movies. But what the film studio doesn't want you to know is that they're actually all real. The superheroes and the supervillains are all real, and she ends up finding this out because the villain of the show and the supervillain in real life ends up kind of teaming up with her to try to get her to help him solve a mystery, and kind of blackmails her into doing so. And it sounds like something I would absolutely love. I love superheroes and stuff like that. So I really wanted to pick up a copy of it. I did, but then I found this special unplugged book box edition, again for $5. And I'd actually been looking for this, hoping that I would find it somewhere. Couldn't find it anywhere for the longest time, and then it just popped up. But I love the naked hardcover. I think it's really pretty in the back. And for $5, you can't go wrong. And this is what the inside of the dust jacket looks like, if that intrigues you at all. This story was really interesting to me, so I really need to get to it soon. It is one of the books on my 23 for 2023 that I want to read, and now I have a fancy copy of it, so that's really fun. Next is also an unplugged book box book that I picked up secondhand. I really loved this edition. It was very beautiful, and so I decided to get it. It was brand new and an amazing deal. And I'd actually just bought this paperback, like literally this. I bought the paperback and then I found this on sale and bought it. So I returned the paperback already. But that is A Lust for Blood by Casey Smith. The author of this book is actually the owner of Fable Grounds Coffee, which is super awesome. I love Fable Grounds Coffee. I'm actually a rep for them at the moment. So if you want to use my code to get 10% off, you can use Renegade10. I will have it in the description box down below. I just thought this edition was very pretty. It's a different colorway, but the edges are beautiful. Look at them. I love that. Book one in a Realm of Curses novel, and the papers are also very pretty. But really, we're here for the naked hardcover because look at it. Is that not the prettiest thing you've ever seen? Oh, it's just so cool. And then the reverse side of the dust jacket looks like this. Very pretty, but I love the naked hardcover, which is why I got this edition, because I thought it was so pretty. All I know is that the main character is a monster. I don't know if she's like a vampire or just a monster, but she realizes she's a monster, wakes up covered in blood, wakes up like killing people, etc. And then the male character in this book is a demon slayer, and he kind of prides himself on that. So I think they end up coming together, and there's a little bit of tension, cat and mouse situation. So I wanted to read this for a while, and I thought it sounded really interesting, but I didn't truly know a lot about it. So I'm glad I have it. I will give it a shot when I can, but very excited. And these next three are also special editions that I ordered from, I'm gonna absolutely destroy the name of this company. It is a German-based company. I'm sure you've seen them on Bookstagram. They did some like Red Rising ones and different ones, and they did the Caraval series in the paperback form. I want to say their name is Butcher Base, but I know that that's like completely wrong. But they announced that they were doing these sprayed edges editions of Caraval, and I had to have them because, you know, I'm a Caraval collector. And the paperbacks are pretty normal. They're obviously in German, but we can kind of see there, the top looks like this and the bottom looks like this, but look, it's like their own rendition of Caraval, and I think they're just so beautiful that I just had to get them for my collection and to display. I love it. I also think it's really cool. It's like this paper thing that you unfold, and that's the map, and it's really vivid colors. They're just beautiful. I have no regrets, but it was a lot of money. The next one I got secondhand, if you can't tell by the cover basically coming off. The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I've heard really good things about this. I believe it's an adult fantasy romance. It is book one in a Crowns of Nyaxia novel. I don't know, I've heard several people talk about this, saying that if you liked ACOTAR or other more popular adult, if you like Sarah J. Maas, or other popular adult fantasy, you will like this. So I'm very curious about it. I don't know too much about it. I think it is around vampires, which is okay. It's not like my thing, but it's fine. The back says, human or vampire, the rules of survival are the same. Never trust, never yield, and always, always guard your heart. And it looks like she is an adopted human daughter of the Nightborn Vampire King. And she's kind of like tried to survive in this world that's trying to kill her, and ends up being involved in a legendary tournament held by the goddess of death herself. And in order to survive this, she has to team up with a mysterious rival, and it's against a lot of the vampire houses. So it sounds really fun. It's like a pretty big book, as in long, I guess, but it's only Yeah, it's less than 500 pages, so it's not horrible. But yeah, it just sounded interesting. I've heard really good things about this, so I wanted to grab it. I went ahead and got it secondhand while I had the chance, obviously, but I'm totally fine with that. So hopefully I'll be able to give this a shot soon. Another one that I got in was a pre-order from Fairy Loot to match my other book in this duology, and that is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Sue Lynn Tan. This is book 2 in the Celestial Kingdoms duology, so I have Daughter of the Moon Goddess right here, and I went ahead and got the matching Fairy Loot edition. So it's very pretty, it's very bright and green and orange, and the pages are stunning. Like, look at that, amazing. And the naked hardcover has this really pretty foiling, and I love the little like stars right here. End pages, always stunning, and is signed by the author. I'm not gonna really tell you anything about this because it's the second book, but Daughter of the Moon Goddess is the first if you're interested in this at all. But this is a beautiful edition I'm very happy to have. I also recently showed these in my March TBR video, but I'll go ahead and just kind of show you real quickly here. We have Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller, and these are both the Fairy Loot editions because they make this stunning sprayed edge picture of a ship sailing on the sea, and I love it. The naked hardcover of the first one looks like this, and the end papers are a really interesting art choice, but also very pretty. It's actually signed by the author, which I think is pretty cool. I know I talked about this in my March TBR, but if you don't know what this is about, she's the daughter of a pirate king. She ends up putting herself in a situation where she's forced to get kidnapped and then has to get out of that situation to like save her father. There you go. And of course, Daughter of the Siren Queen is book 2. And the naked hardcover looks like this. End pages. End pages. And signed. And I also got my Fairy Loot edition of The Atlas Paradox by Olivia Blake, and it's this really pretty red edition. Spine looks like this. The edges are actually really pretty. I really like the maroon with the yellow and the symbols. I think that's really cool. Sure, you know about the Atlas Paradox at this point. Naked hardcover looks like this. The spine's really pretty. I really like the end page artwork on these. I think they're really beautiful. And the Atlas Paradox follows the events, obviously, of the Atlas 6, where 6 individuals are trying to be inducted into the Alexandrian Society, but only 5 will be inducted and 1 will be eliminated. And this is a really pretty edition, so I'm happy to have it. This next one was actually my November Illumicrate book, but it came really late, and that is The Luminaries by Susan Dennard. This is the same author as the Witchland series, which I've been really wanting to read but haven't made time for, but this edition is so pretty. I love all of the foiling on the spine, on the cover, on the back. The back says, "The forest is dangerous for a luminary untrained." The sprayed edges are pretty. Wow, it's just so pretty. So much gold foiling, and it says the Nightmare Compendium. The spine is beautiful, and the back says the Comprehensive Guide to Hemlock Falls Nightmares. I think this book is absolutely stunning. I'm very thrilled to have this one. I don't know much about this book, but obviously I was intrigued because it was Susan Dennard. I think it's more of like a magical realism story. If I'm not mistaken, I could very well be. Hemlock Falls isn't like other towns. You won't find it on a map, your phone won't work here, and the forest outside town might just kill you. And the main character is a luminary, which is like an ancient order that helps protect the town from the monsters and the nightmares from Hemlock Falls Forest. Her father was accused of being a witch, and so they've kind of been ostracized until her 16th birthday, when she can compete in the Luminary Hunter Trials and kind of clear her family name. But in order to survive, she enlists the help of Jay, who is like the neighborhood bad boy. And in the midst of all of this, they may find things are more dangerous than they seem, and it sounds good, but a little bit different than what I usually pick up, but I'm very excited to have it. And then I have the Goldsboro science fiction fantasy book, and I can't remember if this is December or November, because I know a lot of it. I think it was December. It's the December book, because so much of it has been in lockdown because of the issues with Royal Mail. But that is City of Lost Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a beautiful book. Like, the cover itself is beautiful, the colorway is beautiful, but look at these edges. You're not prepared. These are some of the most beautiful edges I have ever seen, and I'm very excited I got this in my Goldsboro subscription. It is stunning. And Goldsboro doesn't always do foiling on the hardcover, but this one's really pretty also. Of course, it is numbered and signed, which is fantastic. This is super vague. So it's a city that's essentially under occupation. It says, like, despite all of the people that live in this city, regardless if you're a refugee, a madman, a fanatic, whatever, the catalyst is the anchor wood, which is that dark grove of trees, that primeval remnant, the portal, that portal, when the moon is full, so to strange and distant shores. Illamar, some say, is the worst place in the world and the gateway to 1,000 worse places. Illamar, city of long shadows, city of bad decisions, city of last chances. So it sounds extremely vague, but that you can go into this wood and then be transported, go through like a portal fantasy essentially, and go to all these other worlds. It doesn't really tell you anything about the book, to be honest, but I'm intrigued and I think this edition is beautiful. I've heard really good things about Adrian Tchaikovsky as well. I've never read anything by him, but I'm sure he's a fantastic author, so happy to have this, as I'm happy to have all books. The next one that I got that I'm so happy I have this because I wanted kind of a special edition of this book and I realized that I missed my chance and I realized that it's not coming out in the US, at least for now. And then it was just like gone. All UK retailers gone. So I was thrilled that I received this, and that is the Illumicrate edition of God Killer by Hannah Kaner. This is just a little bit of a different colorway than the original, but it's beautiful. It's got some foiling on it, really creep darky vibes. The edges are stunning, love them. But what I'm really here for, here's the author letter. What I was really here for was the naked hardcover. So it's a printed hardcover, but look at that. My goodness, it's stunning. And the end pages are foiled, and I think this is such a beautiful detail that most publishers, whatever, look over and don't add, but I think it adds a lot. It's also signed by the author, and I'm stoked to have this because I was very curious about it as I heard everybody talking about it, and then was horrified that I thought I missed my chance at getting a nice edition of this. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that I got my Illumicrate edition. Thank you, Illumicrate, for saving the day. I'll just read you what's on the back because I don't really know. It says, Kissin ripped her sword out through the god's side in a stink of blood and dank water, and the shrine behind the waterfall shattered. The god made no sound as her flesh turned back into the current and sank into the river, releasing it for the town and the villages it fed to thrive or fail. But she managed a last barb to Kissin's mind. When Midrin falls to the gods, your king, your kind will be the first to die. Obviously, this main character is a god killer, and I feel like that's all you really know going in. So there's that. I also got The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chotsky. This is the Fairy Loot edition that I did an unboxing for, so we don't need to linger here, but I do have that. And my Fairy Loot edition of Spice Road by Maya Ibrahim. This is also a stunning edition, and I really hope that I like this book because it sounded really good, but I did an unboxing for it, so we'll just move on from that. Next, I did pick this up, but I don't think I'm going to keep the physical copy because it is so small, and that is The Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. This is just like a tiny little book, and I was kind of disappointed, not in the book, but in the format of the book. The cover, like the printing just seems a little off. It looks better on camera than it does in person, and it's so tiny that I wish they had made it bigger to match the other one. Very small complaint, but it was a really cute book. I enjoyed it. The pages are just so small and so weird, but I did pick this up. I'm probably gonna sell it because it kind of irritates me that it doesn't match, but I read it, liked it a lot. It's a little novella following the events of A Sorcery of Thorns. Next, I grabbed secondhand, which is amazing because it just came out recently, is A Love by Design by Elizabeth Everett. This is book 3 in The Secret Scientists of London. I recently, spoiler alert, read book 1 and want to read book 2 soon, and so this is book 3 that just came out in January. And I'm excited to get to it. It's essentially all following different lady scientists in this series, and they all end up with their own little love story, and it's cute. I think this one, she's an architect. Engineering, so she's like in the engineering field. So this is cute, and I would love to get to it soon. The next one I got because I've heard amazing things about this author, but none of her works really stood out to me until now. And then I've also heard people read this book and rave about it, and that is Anastasia by Sophie Lark. Now, first off, I would like to point out that when I've seen people talk about this book, I did not realize how long it was. This is a chunky book. It is very floppy. It's very satisfying. But this is thick. I thought this was going to be like a cute little novel. No. It does have really pretty illustrations in it though. It's 656 pages. Like, this is not a joke. But anyway, I've always been very intrigued by Anastasia. I watched the movie as a kid, as many of you did, and I fell in love with it. So I was very curious about kind of an adult, I don't know if it's fantasy, I think it is fantasy, an Anastasia dark fantasy romance retelling. It just sounded really interesting. So I was very happy to grab this secondhand while I had the chance, because that's one of the good ways to buy indie books, because they're less expensive secondhand, and you're reusing books, you know, which is always good. On the back it says, Anastasia is the princess no one needs, the fourth daughter born to an emperor without a son, and the only royal lacking a magical gift. Until she collides with a young Cossack rebel, changing both their lives forever. Damien is taken from everything he knows and raised as a ward of the Romanovs. Anastasia develops a strange kind of magic shared only by the black monk Rasputin. While her power grows in secret, boosted by forbidden contact with Damien, Anastasia makes a mistake with terrible consequences. Fate grants her a single chance to set it right, but saving what she lost may cost everything she loves. So I don't know anything about this except that it's Anastasia and magical, and that's all I needed. Very excited. I've never read this author's works, but it's Anastasia, so I'm down. And then some more books on Pango that I got secondhand. I saw this series, and I knew the author because of another book that I bought for him that I still haven't read, but the premise sounded insanely interesting to me, and I didn't know any of his other works. And this popped up on my Pango, and I was reading about it, and it sounded amazing. And I ended up finding the entire series for like $8? Maybe $12, but 3 books, like $8 or $12. And so I was like, absolutely yes. And that is the Seraphim series by David Dalgish, and book 1 is Skyborn. So this is about angels and seraphim specifically, and I was down. That's all I needed to know, was that it was like a fantasy about angels, and it sounded so good that I had to grab it. So the first one is Skyborn. And it says, 6 islands float high above the endless ocean, where humanity's final remnants are locked in a brutal civil war. Their parents slain in battle, twins Kael and Brenna, Skyborn, are training to be Seraphim, elite soldiers of an aerial combat who wield elements of ice, fire, stone, and lightning. What? When the invasion comes, they will take to the skies and claim their vengeance. You can't tell me that doesn't sound so good. So I went ahead and got the whole trilogy, because why not for that price? So the first one, again, is Skyborn, and then Fireborn, and then Shadowborn. So I am pumped. I've never heard anyone talk about this series at all, and it's by Orbit, and I'm just really anxious to read all of these very quickly and then be able to get my thoughts up on this trilogy, because it sounds amazing. It's not new. I want to say this first one came out in like 2017. Let's see. 2015. So this came out in 2015. So this is not a new series by any means, but it sounded insanely fun and intriguing for me, and I can't wait to read it and let you know about it. Next to, me and my husband went to Barnes & Noble, as you do. It was for his birthday, I don't know. But we were walking around, and we saw the, buy one, get one 50% off table, and we decided to get a couple of books. The first one is Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. I've heard good things about this, but I don't really know a lot about it. I remember reading the synopsis in the store for both of these books, and I couldn't tell you what they were now. But we decided we were going to get these two because they sounded pretty interesting. This is book 1 in the books of Amba. And I'm just going to read you the very top sentence. A nobleman's daughter with magic in her blood, an empire built on the dreams of enslaved gods. And she can manipulate the dreams of the gods to shape the world, which sounds crazy. So this sounded really good. I remember seeing this book, like seeing the cover, seeing people talk about it and saying it was really good, just like ratings, like 5-star ratings, or just really highly rated, but not really talking about the story all that much. So it sounded really good, so I went ahead and grabbed this, and John was interested in it as well. And then we grabbed this one because while this is a chunker, I remember hearing pretty good things about it, and then when I read the back, I was like, okay, this sounds pretty good. And that is Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. This is a chunky book. It's a big boy. It's very floppy. We love it. Yes. Sounded really good, and I was really curious about it, even though it is chunky and super intimidating. How long is this thing? A little shy of 800 pages, but close. And this is a debut fantasy, so that's also very impressive. The first book in the Legacy Trilogy, and a shadow has fallen over the Tressan Republic, but as Tressa falls, heroes rise. Victor is the Republic's champion, a warrior without equal. He also hides a secret that the world would see him burned as a heretic. Josiri is Victor's sworn enemy, a political prisoner. He dreams of reuniting his mother's failed rebellion. Colleen, Joshori's sister, seeks only to break free of their tarnished legacy to escape the expectations and prejudice that haunt the family name. As war spreads across the Republic, they must set aside their differences in order to save their homeland. However, decades of bad blood are not easily forgotten, and victory will demand a darker price than any of them could have imagined. Very vague, but it sounds very good and very epic. Heard good things. I think it's a good one to take a risk on. And then this next one I've actually talked about before. I've been interested in reading it for a while, but never did. And John got it because he was buying another book on Pango, and he was like, hey, I need to spend like $5 and I get free shipping. Is there a book from this seller that you want? And I grabbed this one, and that is The Book Jumper. I'm gonna absolutely butcher this author's name, but I think it's Mathilde Glaser. And this is a originally, I think, German published work, but it was translated into English. And essentially this girl has inherited this ability to be able to jump into books, to physically go into books and experience the stories. And that's all I know about it, and it sounded amazing, and so I grabbed it. It's a pretty beat up copy, but I'm totally fine with that. The cover's beautiful, and I've been intrigued with this one for a while, so I grabbed this. These next ones, I had a Barnes & Noble gift card from a little while ago that I still had some money on, and I actually didn't realize how much money was on there, and I had slowly been collecting a list of indie books that I wanted to buy, and was able to find all of them on Barnes & Noble's website. So I went ahead and used my gift card to purchase them, and I will get that stack. So the first one, I think this is indie. This is the only one in question of if it's indie or not. That is The Devil of Dublin by B.B. Easton. This is a little outside of my usual genre and usual story. I was intrigued by this. First off, the cover. Apparently this is a special edition cover. It is set in Dublin. It's set in Ireland, and I absolutely love Ireland. And it is I think it's a dark mafia romance set in Ireland. Again, not really my thing, but I was so intrigued by the premise of this, and that it was set in Ireland and kind of immersed in Irish folklore, that I have to know, right? I just have to know. And the main character talks about how her grandfather used to feed her all these stories about fairies and folklore and all these different things in Ireland. And as a child, she believed every word of it. But when he warned her about a mute boy that lurked the woods, she thought he was making it up. And the priests have declared him like spawn of Satan. She was like, no way, I refuse to listen to that. She thought he was kind and beautiful and hurting. And he was her friend. They would spend summers together gallivanting in the woods. As she returns to Ireland as an adult, grieving and engaged to someone, all of those legends quickly morph into nightmares. She says her grandfather was right about everything, even the boy, if only she had listened. So it just sounds crazy, and it's pretty short. It's about 300 pages, but the cover's beautiful, and I just was intrigued, despite it not being my usual thing, so I have to know. Next one I heard really good things about. It is a dragon shifter, I believe. I hate the cover, but it is Holland the Soulless by Denali Day. There's a dragon there. Ignore this guy. But this is book 1 in the Decory Bride series. Oh, it's not a dragon shifter. They're dragon riders. Excuse me. This order of Wyvern riders, and she ends up being kidnapped, and she's never seen these monsters. She thought they were a myth, and the Wyvern rider Holland is saying that she is his bride by right. And he realizes that she wants nothing to do with him, and he only has one shot to change her mind and to like make this right. All while she's trying to free herself from this marital contract and situation. So it sounds interesting. It sounds like something I will enjoy, but I don't know really anything about this. Again, I heard people kind of rave about this and say really good things about it that usually read this type of genre. So I was curious, and I'm gonna give it a shot. I like fantasy romance, and sometimes I think it's horrifying. This next one was one that I just stumbled upon one day and was really intrigued by, and that is Museum of Magic by Beth Revis. This cover is beautiful, for one, and I just heard about this, again, indie published, and it just sounded so intriguing. The main character grows up in a centuries-old home that is kind of imbued with magic, or so they're told, and her father turns it into a museum of magic, because it was supposed to be built by an ancestor renowned for witchcraft, but she knows magic is not real. Till a fae boy named Puck appears inside her house. And then a hunter arrives at her house, weapons drawn, and ghostly shadows are calling to her from the mirror. And her grandfather is missing. And Puck tells her that she has the ability to protect magical beings, and they team up, and that's all I know, but it sounds really like fun and kind of whimsical. The next one was kind of a The cover is what originally intrigued me about this, also an indie book. An Incarnation of Shadow and Light by S.A. Christensen. This is just a really pretty looking book, kind of giving me like Atlas 6 vibes, the cover, the original style of the cover. And in this world, only those known as the Incarnate can use magic. And then the deaths of some rulers happen under mysterious circumstances, and 4 unlikely people with their own backstories end up teaming up. And infighting and betrayal runs rampant as each becomes worse than their problems in order to solve them. It sounds vague and interesting, and it was just one that I was intrigued about and wanted to pick up. And then last for the physical books in this indie section is Empire of Dragons by Rachel Shade. This is book 1 in the Cursed Empire. Obviously, I got this because it's called Empire of Dragons and widely surrounds dragons in this story, which is why I was intrigued about it and why I wanted to pick it up. Save the empire or let it burn. And I'll just read you this tiny little thing. 1 empire, an age-old hatred, 2 girls who will risk anything, even their souls, for their people. There you go. Hopefully that intrigued you enough to look up more about it. Okay, and that's all the physical books. Now let me quickly go through the audiobooks. I will probably be very short talking about these because this is already too long, and I didn't think it was going to be this long. The first audiobook I got was The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. I've been intrigued by Bloodsong for a long time, and when I heard the premise of this book, it sounded really good, and I think the 3rd one is coming out this year. So I got that. Couldn't tell you the synopsis anymore about that, but I think it was a soldier who was exiled, and he ends up being called back into action, I think. Next one is Heart of Fae and Veins of Magic by Emma Hamm. This is the first 2 books in her Otherworld series, and I've heard it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's heavily, if not completely, inspired by Celtic folklore, and it sounds so good. So it sounds very different because Celtic folklore and Celtic fairies can be very, very different, and the way that she described it in a like video montage was, you know, like centaur type beings, but spider. Like, that's horrifying. I don't want to read about that, but it's very different and very dark. And she draws a lot of the Irish and Celtic folklore. And I think the main character the beast character has like something wrong with his face where he's like scarred up, but it's like crystals. It just sounds really unique. And I really loved Fireheart by Emma Hamm. And strangely, even though I've only read 1 of her books, I like want to collect all of them and read all of her works now. So Otherworld is one I was also very intrigued by and have heard great things about it. I think the fan base for Otherworld is way, way bigger than Fireheart, and I loved Fireheart. I do need to get to this very soon, but I did pick this up. I had an Audible subscription. I'll get it for a couple months, you know, use the credits, cancel it, let a few months pass, and then repeat the process when it drops down to a cheap price. So I'll do that every so often, and I bought these during that time. The next one was A Cursed Kiss by Jenny Hickman. I don't remember anything about this really, except that it was some sort of fantasy romance. It sounded interesting. Same with Oathtaker. I got Oathtaker by Audrey Gray. This is the first book in the Kingdom of Runes series. I've heard people rave about that series, especially like the Bookish Box staff and people. I've never read it, but it sounds really interesting and like something that would be really good. Light is forbidden, dark magic spells death, heaven has both. Yeah, it's just I don't know if it's a fantasy romance. It must be. Yeah, it does say fantasy romance. Okay. Well, anyway, this is a fantasy series that I've been intrigued by and heard really good things about, but have not read. And so when it was on sale at Audible, I went ahead and grabbed it because I want to start it. I know this is like a horrible... I know my description on these audiobooks are horrible. I'm so sorry, but I'm trying to get through this really quickly. Next is Queen's Hope, Queen's Peril, and Queen's Shadow, all by E.K. Johnston. This is her Padme trilogy. So this is in the Star Wars universe, and these are all following Padme. In the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, that's where you see Padme's story. I'm not sure what these novels cover, but I love Padme and I love Star Wars, and I would love to read more of her books, so I went ahead and got these. I read Ahsoka by A.K. Johnston, and it was really, really good. And these are narrated by the same woman that narrated Padme in the Clone Wars animated series, and so I had to get the audiobook versions of these. And speaking of Star Wars, I got Star Wars: The Old Republic, the Revan novel by Drew Karpyshyn. This is covering the story of Revan, which is why I got it. I wanted to learn more about Darth Revan. He seems like a really interesting character, and so I went ahead and got that as well. And then I got this one because I was very intrigued. I saw it on Audible. It's very short, but I was just really intrigued about it. I heard this little like blurb. John actually found it for me. It was a video saying he basically, you know, that sound where it's like, fine, I'll do it myself, like Thanos. It's a dark Robin Hood retelling. So it sounds, I was just really intrigued by that idea. And essentially it's like a bad guy that ends up turning into Robin Hood and doing good things. So it's kind of a reverse situation where the bad guy, where the villain becomes the hero. And I thought that was interesting. And it's called A Forest of Vanity and Valor by A.P. Beeswick. I don't know anything about this author. I don't know if this is good. It's like a 5-hour long audiobook, and so I thought I would give it a shot, but Dark Robin Hood retelling sounds interesting. And then last but not least, in my audiobooks to haul, I got Wrath and Rain by Nikki St. Crow. This is a gamble because I did not like The Vicious Lost Boys by Nikki St. Crow. This is a bind up as well. It says Wrath and Ruin, but I think it's actually 3 or 4 separate books in another series. Let's see what it's called. Okay, it's the Wrath and Rain series, so yep, there's 3 books in this series. Ruthless Demon King, Sinful Demon King, and Vengeful Demon King. The entire reason I am giving this audiobook bind up, if you will, a shot is because the author described it as what you wanted Elena and the Darkling's relationship to be. You wanted them to be together, and you wanted it to be a romance, and you wanted it to turn into something. That's the entire reason I bought it, because it was somebody making like a Darkling Elena romance. That's it. That's why I'm gonna read it. And I knew nothing else about this, to be honest. That was literally the only reason I picked it up, and I had a credit and it was 3 books for 1. So I was like, shoot, all right, let's go. Well, I've now been filming for an hour, so I'm gonna stop now. That's all of the books to haul for today, and I'm very excited that I can go organize my shelves later and use up that bookshelf, because I need to get books off the floor. Let me know if there's any of these books that you saw today that you would like to hear my thoughts on, that you would like me to read and then put my thoughts up for you guys. I would be happy to do so. But for now, that is it for today's video. So please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.